I worked the night shift at a gas station for almost 4 years. Most people imagine that working nights is boring. They think nothing happens except selling cigarettes, coffee, and fuel to truck drivers. Usually, they're right, but there was one station where I worked for only 6 weeks. And after what happened there, I quit without notice. The station sat on a lonely stretch of highway nearly 20 miles from the nearest town. There were no restaurants nearby, no neighborhoods, and no streetlights beyond the ones surrounding the pumps. After midnight, the entire area felt disconnected from the world. The building itself wasn't old. It had been renovated several times, and the owner proudly reminded employees about that fact whenever customers complained about anything. Still, there was something strange about the place. The first warning came from another employee, whose name was Martin. On my second night, he was training me on the register when he casually asked, "Did they tell you about the logbook?" I laughed. "What logbook?" He pointed beneath the counter. There was a thick black notebook. Every night worker writes down anything weird. I assumed he was joking. What kind of weird? Martin didn't smile. Anything you can't explain. I opened the notebook. The entries went back almost 12 years. Most were ordinary. Broken coffee machine. Power outage. Customer left without paying dot. Then I noticed other notes. 2:17 a.m. Woman in white standing near pump 6. Vanished when approached. 3:04. I'm heard knocking on rear storage door. Nobody outside. 1:42 a.m. Security camera showed person behind station. Area was empty when checked. I looked up. These are jokes, right? Martin shrugged. Read enough pages and you'll stop laughing. I closed the notebook. The rest of the shift passed normally, but before leaving, Martin stopped at the door. His expression suddenly became serious. If someone asks for gas on pump 6 after 3 in the morning, he hesitated. Don't go outside. Then he left. I assumed he was messing with the new guy. I forgot about it completely until the following week. The station had 8 pumps. Pump 6 sat furthest from the building. For some reason, it broke down more often than the others. Customers complained constantly. Maintenance technicians checked it multiple times. Nothing unusual was ever found. The first strange thing happened during a storm. It was around 3:10 a.m. Maine hammered the roof. Visibility outside was terrible. I was restocking shelves when the bell above the entrance rang. A woman entered. At least, I think it was a woman. She wore a long gray coat soaked from the rain. Her dark hair hung over most of her face. Something fell off immediately. She didn't browse, didn't look at products, didn't even glance around. She simply walked to the counter. I smiled. Need anything? For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she spoke in a voice so quiet I could barely hear her. Pump 6, cash or card? Another pause, then pump 6. I repeated the question. No response. She slowly turned and walked out. I watched through the window. Instead of going toward pump 6, she crossed the parking lot and disappeared into the darkness beyond the station lights. I never saw a vehicle, never saw headlights, nothing. I checked the cameras afterward. The footage showed her entering, standing at the counter, leaving, but when the camera switched to the exterior view, there was nobody there. The door opened, the rain blew inside. But the woman wasn't visible. It looked as if the door had opened by itself. I replayed it 6 times. The result never changed. That was the first time. I wrote in the logbook that the next morning I told the manager. He seemed annoyed rather than surprised. Camera glitch. What? Camera glitch. Conversation over. Yet later that day, another employee texted me. It was Martin. You saw her, didn't you? I stared at the message. Then replied, how do you know? His response came immediately, because everybody eventually does. After that, I began reading the logbook during quiet hours. The more I read, the worse it became. Entries from different workers described the same things. A woman asking for pump 6, knocking behind the building, footsteps in empty aisles, a figure standing near the dumpsters, all spanning more than a decade. Different handwriting, different employees. Same details. The consistency terrified me. People could invent ghost stories, but maintaining the exact same story for 12 years? That seemed unlikely. One entry caught my attention. It was dated 9 years earlier. Do not follow the knocking. No explanation. Just that sentence. Written in large letters, hard enough to tear the page. 3 nights later, I learned why. At approximately 2:48 a.m., I heard knocking. 3 slow impacts. Thump. Thump. The sound came from behind the station. At first, I thought it was a delivery truck. Then it happened again. Thump. 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 I checked the monitor. The rear camera showed nothing. No person. No vehicle. Nothing moving. The knocking continued. Every 30 seconds. Always 3 knocks. Eventually curiosity won. Grabbed a flashlight, stepped outside, and walked around the building. The sound immediately stopped. The night became silent. Too silent. Even the insects seemed gone. I swept the flashlight across the rear lot. Empty. Dumpsters. Storage containers. Weeds. Nothing else. Then my light reached the far fence. Someone stood there. Motionless. A tall figure. At least 6.5 feet tall. Maybe taller. The flashlight illuminated only part of its body, but I could tell something was wrong. Its arms hung unnaturally low. Almost reaching its knees. Froze. The figure didn't move. Didn't react to the light. It simply stood there. Watching. Suddenly remembered the notebook. Do not follow the knocking. My stomach dropped. I turned around and walked quickly back inside. The moment the door locked behind me, thump. 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 The knocking resumed. Directly outside the rear wall. Closer than before. Much closer. I never checked again. After that night, my sleep became terrible. Every shift felt heavier. The station seemed different after midnight. Like the darkness surrounding it wasn't normal darkness. It felt alive. Watching. Waiting. The worst incident happened during my 5th week. I still remember every detail. It began at 2:57. A pickup truck pulled into pump 2. An older man stepped out. Bought coffee. Paid for fuel. Completely ordinary. Then he asked a strange question. How long have you worked here? About a month. His expression changed. Not long then. No. He nodded toward the windows. You seen the lady yet? My blood ran cold. I hadn't mentioned anything. Neither had the manager, lady, the one near pump 6. I couldn't speak. The man sighed. I drove this route 20 years. He lowered his voice. She used to stand there even before this station was built. Then he left. Just like that. No explanation. No details. Nothing. That night stretched forever. At 3:13 a.m. Every light inside the building flickered. The refrigerators shut off. The cash register restarted. Then everything returned. I checked the security monitors. All cameras were functioning except one. Pump 6. The screen showed only static. I tried refreshing it. Nothing changed. Static. Static. Then a shape appeared. A face. Close to the camera. Far. Too close. Pale. Skin. Dark eyes. A wide smile. The image lasted less than a second. Then the screen returned to normal. Pump 6 was empty. I nearly called the police. Before I could decide, the station phone rang. The display showed no caller ID. I answered. Silence. Double quotes. Hello? Nothing. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Pump 6." The line disconnected. I stood frozen. The phone rang again immediately. I refused to answer. It rang 6 more times. Then stopped. A few minutes later, the front door opened. Nobody entered. The door simply swung open. Cold air rushed inside. I watched from behind the counter, terrified. Slowly, the door closed again. The bell chimed. Silence returned. Then every monitor shut off simultaneously. Black screens. The station suddenly felt enormous. And empty. I was alone. At least I thought I was. A noise came from aisle 4. A soft scraping sound, like shoes dragging across the floor. I listened. The noise came again. Closer. Scrape. 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 I grabbed a flashlight from beneath the counter. The store lights still worked, yet somehow the aisles looked darker than usual. I moved slowly toward the sound. Nothing. Empty shelves, candy, cleaning supplies. Motor, oil. No person. Then I noticed something. Wet footprints. They began near the entrance and continued down the aisle. As if someone had walked inside from the rain, but outside it hadn't rained for hours. The footprints continued toward the back storage room. I followed them. Every instinct told me not to, but curiosity won again. The prints ended at the storage door. I opened it. The room was empty. No windows. No exits. Nobody inside. Yet fresh footprints covered the floor, leading to the far wall. And stopping, not turning, not leaving. Stopping. As if whoever made them had simply walked into solid concrete. At that exact moment, the station lights went out. Everything became black. I heard breathing. Very close. Not mine. Someone stood beside me. I could hear it. Slow. Wet. Heavy. Breathing. I ran. I don't remember reaching the front counter. I don't remember dropping the flashlight. I only remember locking myself in the office and calling the manager. He answered immediately, as if he'd been expecting the call. What happened? I explained everything. The footprints, the breathing, the darkness. There was a long silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. Stay in the office until sunrise. Why? Another pause. Because it gets worse after 4. Then he hung up. I remained inside that office for nearly 3 hours. Around 4:11 a.m., footsteps crossed the sales floor. I heard them clearly. Slow. Measured. Walking up and down the aisles. Sometimes stopping outside the office door, then continuing. Several times the doorknob rattled, not violently, almost politely, as if someone wanted permission to enter. The security monitors eventually returned. I checked them. The store appeared empty, yet I could still hear footsteps, at 5:02 a.m. Everything stopped, no footsteps, no breathing, no rattling, nothing, sunrise arrived shortly afterward. I exited the office. The station looked normal, except for one thing. The black logbook sat on the counter, open, I hadn't left it there, the page displayed an entry, fresh, ink, fresh handwriting, but not mine, it read, "You should not have followed the footprints, I stared at the words. Unable to move, no cameras showed anyone writing it, no employee had entered the station. I checked every recording, nothing, the message simply appeared. I quit the next day. Manager didn't argue, didn't ask questions, didn't even seem surprised. He merely nodded, as if he knew every employee eventually reached the same decision. Before leaving, I asked him one final question. What happened at this place? For a moment he looked genuinely uncomfortable. Then he told me a story. Years before the station existed, a woman had died near that stretch of highway, a hit-and-run accident. The driver was never identified. According to local rumors, she had wandered injured through the darkness, searching for help. Several motorists later claimed they saw her standing beside the road, asking for assistance. Those reports continued. Long after her death, the manager said he didn't believe ghost stories. Yet, when I mentioned Pump 6, his face turned pale. Apparently every version of the story ended in the same location, the exact spot where Pump 6 now stood. That was 3 years ago. I've never returned, but occasionally I still think about that notebook, about the entries spanning 12 years, and the message waiting for me on my final morning. Recently, I contacted Martin. I asked whether anything unusual had happened since I left. His reply arrived a few minutes later, only one sentence. They finally removed Pump 6 last winter. I felt relieved, until a second message appeared. Now she stands at Pump 4, and that was the last time we ever spoke.